Welcome to Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. I am Nic Rohloff. Mailbag is what we are doing on today's show. We want to answer some of the questions surrounding the Miami Dolphins as training camp gets underway in South Florida. And the first question is coming in from Tim Boo, who asks, who will likely be the starter for right guard for this team? Well, we know that this has been a hot topic surrounding the Miami Dolphins. Robert Jones is probably the projected starter and leader in the clubhouse as we get training camp underway. Jack Driscoll, Liam Eichenberg, and Lester Cotton are the three players fighting to take over that starting right guard spot. I also wouldn't rule out someone getting signed, whether it be a Greg Van Roten or someone else in free agency. I'd like to see Miami potentially add someone, but Chris Grier might feel confident in what the Dolphins have in-house. If I had to give my prediction, I actually have changed it from Robert Jones to Jack Driscoll. We've talked about it in the past, and I think I did it on a week ago video or 2 weeks ago where I actually stated my claim that I think Jack Driscoll will be the starter, because when he played right guard for 400 and change snaps in 2021 for the Eagles, he actually put up solid PFF numbers, and if the Dolphins give him a chance to play right guard once again, I think he might seize that opportunity. So you know what? I'm giving you Jack Driscoll to be that starting right guard. Make sure you are following me over on Twitter, because as training camp continues to roll on here and we get closer and closer to the regular season and preseason games, I am going to have everything you need over on my Twitter. Daily Dolphins coverage, training camp and practice highlights, preseason highlights, anything you need on the Fins, I'm your guy. And we're getting closer and closer to 2,000 followers, 794 away. So go give me a follow. Handles at Nic_Rohloff. Let's get to 2,000 before the season gets underway in just about a month. Angel, will we see a trade for Jonathan Allen, the defensive lineman from Washington? Now, I'll say this. We did a video about a month or two ago on a Jonathan Allen trade, and that was before they signed Calais Campbell, when it was a clear need to get another defensive lineman on the interior. I do not see the Dolphins trading for Jonathan Allen before the season begins. Now, let's say this. If a Calais Campbell or Zach Sealer get hurt, or the Dolphins are really struggling stopping the run in the first 2 months of the season, and you get closer to that October 31st or whatever the trade deadline is, I haven't looked at it yet, if I'm going to be honest. I know it's mid to late October. But if they get to the deadline, they're in a position to contend but still have a glaring weakness at the interior defensive line and stopping the run, then they maybe revisit a Jonathan Allen trade, as he could possibly be on the way out of Washington. So I am not ruling out a potential Jonathan Allen trade for Miami this year, but I do not think one's going to happen before the Dolphins play the Jaguars on September 8th. Jay Case, the entertainer, will we see an interior offensive line addition? So this kind of just goes back to that question that we just had about who the starting right guard is or is going to be. It's all dependent on how preseason and training camp goes. I think I've officially switched my mindset to that. If you've been with the channel, which I believe J Case has, I've seen him down in the comment section. Shout out to J Case, and shout out to you for coming on the live show and asking a question. We've talked about Greg Van Roten and other right guard options for the Dolphins, but I think in my mind, I've officially come to the conclusion that Chris Grier is going to see what he has, sees how the right guards perform in joint practices, in training camp practices, in preseason games, and see how they perform, and then make the decision there, where if you need to sign someone 2-3 weeks away from week one, okay, that needs to happen. But as we're 4, 5, 6 weeks away, probably he's going to wait and see what he has in Eichenberg, Cotton, Robert Jones, and Jack Driscoll. $2 super chat from Fritz Blade. First timer, too. Shout out to Fritz, absolute legend. How good will our defense be next season? #Dolphins. I've been on the record to say this is going to be a top 5 group in the NFL if fully healthy. We talked about it a couple weeks ago in a video that displayed the hype around new defensive coordinator Anthony Weaver, who's coming over from Baltimore. If this team stays fully healthy, no, it's a big if, but you look across the board, Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, Zach Sealer, Calais Campbell, Jordan Brooks, David Long Jr., Jordan Poyer, Javon Holland, Kader Kohu, Kendall Fuller and Jalen Ramsey. Those 11 names are an elite group, and I have faith in Anthony Weaver to be a good defensive play caller and have a good system and scheme, because Baltimore, the scheme where he comes from for the past 3 years, have been one of the best defensive teams in the NFL over that span of time. So I believe if this team stays fully healthy, they have the veterans, they have the youth, they have the secondary, they have the pass rush, they have it all to be a top 5 group in the NFL, and they're going to need it because they're going to play quite a lot of good offenses this year, like Buffalo, like New York, like Kansas City, we hope, like Houston and Cincinnati potentially as well. Like, this team's going to have a lot of tough offenses to slow down, and I think they have the pieces to do it and be a top 5 group in the NFL, so that's how good I think they're going to be. I'm pretty bullish on the group. I'm also very bullish on Game Time because they're the best way to get tickets to any event you need to go to, and it's the only one that I would use and do use when I go get tickets, because they have last-minute tickets and flash deals, which make sure you get the lowest price guaranteed. And I've often talked about this when we shout out Game Time, but you get to see exactly where your seat is when you purchase the ticket, which is very important to me because I have been kind of screwed over in the past in that exact department, but no longer with Game Time. They also have all-in pricing, which allows you to toggle and sees the exact price you're going to pay at checkout up front. So when you're scrolling, like you see the numbers on screen right there, that could be without fees. It could be with fees. But guess what? You're going to know when you use all-in pricing, which is the only way I personally look at tickets. And you can get $20 off your first purchase when you download the app today and use code CHATSPORTS. Yes, $20 off your first purchase. Take the guesswork out of buying the tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS. $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, but again, make sure you create an account. Redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download the app today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Carson Field. What can Emmanuel Ogbah do under Anthony Weaver? Ogbah was signed on Tuesday morning after Shaq Barrett retired on the previous Saturday. So they found the replacement just 48, 72 hours after their retirement of Shaq Barrett in the form of the Dolphin for the last 4 seasons, Emmanuel Ogbah. Ogbah obviously had 2 good years to start off his Dolphins tenure, 9 sacks, then only had 1 sack in 2022 before having 5.5 in 2023. And I know he had an up-and-down season last year, but I think Ogbah, under Anthony Weaver, it's a scheme that fits his pass rush style much more better than it was under Vic Fangio. So Ogbah being that third guy behind Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, and also helping mentor rookies Chop Robinson and Mo Kamara. I think Ogbah is in for a good season this year. He had 5.5 sacks last year. Can I predict 6.5? But it's going to be a more impactful 6.5 than it was last season where he only had 5.5. Cloverfield. Thoughts on Tyreek Hill not wanting to get traded? Good news to me. I don't ever think he wanted to be traded, but he kind of definitely put that to rest, saying on the opening day when he reported on Tuesday to training camp that only thing he told his agent Drew Rosenhaus is do not get me traded. Said he loves his life in Miami and has no plans to leave. That's great. Fantastic news, because I don't want to trade Tyreek Hill. I want Hill to retire in Miami Dolphins. When he has 1,700 yards in back-to-back seasons for the Fins with Tua, yeah, I'm going to want that to stay in South Beach. So I'm happy. I know he wants more guaranteed money, and he wants a different contract, extension, restructure, whatever you want to say. I think he'll get it after this year. I believe Chris Grier will get that done in the meantime while he figures out Tua and Javon Holland's situation. But it's good to know that Tyreek Hill's not going to press the issue too much, at least to this point. Dr. Dummy Beta. Do we have someone starting right guard yet? Well, we were asked this question, I guess, 2 different times on today's mailbag, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it here. No, we don't have an official starting right guard yet. It's going to be a battle between Jack Driscoll, Robert Jones, Liam Eichenberg, Lester Cotton. Maybe they sign someone, maybe they don't, but probably it's going to be one of those 4 if I had to put my money on it. Make sure you are following me over on Twitter, because if you did not get your question on today's mailbag, there is always my Twitter DMs. At Nic_Rohloff is the handle. If you want to ask me a question, fine with that. DMs are open. Go give me a follow. I'll see you in the video tomorrow. Go Fins.